They called themselves the Varn Dominion, an empire of intellects, archivists of the stars, masters of every known law of physics. For 12,000 years, their scholars studied every quark, every wave, every possible permutation of reality. They believed the universe had no more secrets left to offer them. And then humanity appeared. A small blue planet, barely out of its cradle, sending fragile metal shells into the void. To the Varn, we were nothing, primitive mammals still arguing over dirt and flags, daring to call ourselves explorers. They laughed when the first Earth vessel broadcast across the galactic net, a clumsy translation, full of static and sincerity. This is the crew of the Odyssey. We come in peace, seeking knowledge, friendship, and the stars. The laughter of the scholars echoed through the academies of the Dominion. They dissected our equations like children tearing apart toys. They still use chemical combustion for thrust. Their understanding of quantum slip mechanics is decades, no, centuries, behind. And look, they claim to have measured the speed of light as a constant. How quaint. To them, humanity was a joke, a flicker of curiosity on the edge of known space. But to us, their laughter was a challenge. It began, as many human stories do, with defiance, quiet, relentless, and burning. Every insult they hurled became fuel. Every mockery became motivation. By the time Earth joined the interstellar consortium, our engineers were already working in secret labs beneath the ice of Europa, the deserts of Nevada, and the hidden shipyards orbiting Luna. We called it Project Helios. No alien believed it possible, not even the ones friendly to us. The Varn declared our efforts mathematically impossible. They claimed that faster-than-light travel was a childish fantasy, forbidden by the very constants of the universe. But humans have never cared much for permission. Inside a dimly lit laboratory deep beneath the Pacific, Dr. Alina Mora stared at a holographic projection of collapsing equations. The math refused to make sense. The constants refused to bend. And yet she saw patterns in the chaos. Shapes, rhythms, tiny inconsistencies that spoke to her in whispers of possibility. Her assistant, a young engineer named Marcus Lay, muttered, "They said this can't be done, Alina. We've tried this equation 1,000 times." She smiled faintly, "Then we'll try it 1,001. 3 years later, the Helios drive was ready. A shimmering cylinder of folded space coils, powered by a reactor that hummed like the heart of a god. They launched the test vessel from Titan's orbit, the Icarus I. Every alien embassy tuned in to watch, not out of hope, but amusement. Across the galaxy, the Varn broadcast commentary like spectators at a sport. Observe how the humans waste resources. This will end in failure or vaporization. Such emotional creatures, always dreaming beyond their means. Even the Concordium's neutral scientists watched with polite pity. But on Earth, billions held their breaths. Children stayed awake through the night, staring at the stars. Old engineers who'd built the first rockets sat by flickering screens, whispering prayers to a sky that once seemed infinite. Inside the Icarus I, Captain Rhea Solis adjusted her flight harness. Her voice was steady, but her heartbeat echoed through the comms. "Mission Control, this is Icarus I. Engines green, core stable, we're ready for ignition." "Copy that," came Mora's voice from Earth. "Helios sequence in 3, 2, 1. The stars twisted. Space folded. And the universe blinked. For 0.47 seconds, every tachyon sensor in the sector went blind. Gravitational waves spiked, then silence. The ship vanished. The Varn scholars erupted in laughter again. "They've destroyed themselves," cried one. "Of course they did, light cannot be outrun." But 32 minutes later, the laughter died. The Icarus I reappeared on the edge of the Sol system, shimmering, intact, its hull still glowing from the stress of folded space transition. The signal came through static, trembling but alive. "Mission Control, this is Icarus I. We have reached Proxima Centauri. Travel time, 4 minutes, 32 seconds. The world stopped. Proxima Centauri, 4 light years away. 4 minutes. The impossible had happened. In the Varn academies, silence spread like a contagion. Professors froze mid-lecture. Students stared at the live feed in disbelief. The equations on their walls, carved and worshipped for centuries, no longer held meaning. The Dominion's chief scholar Varric collapsed into his seat, whispering, "They outran light." For the first time in their long, proud history, the Varn had no explanation. The constants they believed immutable had bent to human will. Their arrogance fractured under the weight of something they couldn't comprehend, not technology, not logic, but audacity. They summoned the human delegation to the Grand Hall of Concordium. Dr. Mora stood before them, calm, composed, wearing the simplest white uniform. Behind her, holograms replayed the Icarus One's journey again and again. Varric leaned forward. "You have broken the barrier of light. You have violated the foundations of reality." "How?" Elena's answer was simple. "We stopped asking if it was possible. We asked how it could be possible." The chamber fell silent. "You mean to say you ignored the laws of physics?" asked another scholar. Elena smiled softly. "No, we just refused to believe they were the final laws." That single line spread across the galaxy. Millions of species repeated it, some in awe, others in disbelief. But for the Varn, it was the first time they questioned their own certainty. Months later, the humans invited observers aboard the Icarus II for a second test, including several Varn scholars. As the ship prepared for its second jump, Varric himself joined the crew. He wanted to see what humanity had seen. He watched Captain Rhea place her hand on the activation crystal. "Ready, Captain?" she asked her human crew. "Always," Rhea replied. "Let's see what waits beyond light." The ship pulsed not like a machine, but like a living thing. Space bent, colors inverted, and suddenly they were between moments. The Varn saw stars frozen mid-birth, light curving backward, time like a soft ribbon instead of a line. And through it all, the humans stood unafraid, awestruck, yes, but smiling. "You shouldn't be calm," Varric said softly. "This place defies everything we know." Captain Rhea looked out the viewport. "That's what makes it beautiful." When they returned, he could not speak for hours. The arrogance that once lived in his voice was gone, replaced by quiet wonder. Part VII Resolution, the lesson of light. In the following years, the Helios Drive reshaped the galaxy. Trade routes shifted, borders vanished, dozens of civilizations joined in research they once mocked. But what changed most wasn't the technology, it was the mindset. The Varn Dominion, once the loudest in their laughter, became the first to partner with Earth. Their new motto was engraved in every academy. "Truth is not a wall to be worshipped, it is a horizon to be crossed." Varric often visited Earth afterward. He would stand under the night sky, watching the faint streaks of Helios drives vanishing into the stars. He once told Elena Mora quietly, "When we mocked you, it was because we believed we had nothing left to learn. But you showed us that ignorance is not a flaw, it is a frontier." She smiled. "That's the thing about humans. We're not afraid to be wrong, as long as it leads us somewhere new." And as the Icarus fleet departed once more into the unknown, faster, farther and brighter than light, the galaxy watched in reverent silence. For the first time in countless millennia, the oldest species felt something new, hope. And for the first time, the galaxy understood what it truly meant to be human.